G'day, welcome to a new video. I'm sitting in the car because we're going to work on this Adventra, and I've just finished the job and taken for a test drive and it's hunky-dory. However, if you're looking to change the center bearing on your Holden, find the right video for you. This is an Adventra, so Adventra specific. Most of the videos out there are for sedans. However, this setup is more like an earlier Commodore, so may be able to help you change your center bearing. Having said that, watch the video. Hope you enjoy. Let's go. Well, the center bearing in the tail shaft is cactus. As my dad would say, it's like a dick in a shirt sleeve. And as this is the learning car for my daughter, we have to fix it. Before it gets dark, I want to jack it up and get it on stands so we can have a look underneath it. Geez, that light really did fade fast, but it's up on jack stands. Let's crawl underneath and I'll show you what the issue is. All right, looking underneath, here's the tail shaft. We have a donut there, which I have bought a replacement just in case that's knackered, because I don't want to take it out and if it's knackered not replace it, so I've got one of those. And then we go to the center here under the exhaust, so the exhaust is going to have to come out unfortunately, but that's the tail shaft there. Look at that, that's the joint in there. It's a Gonski, dick in a shirt sleeve. And we go along to the back, and of course we have those magnificent Allen key bolts. I love those things, they're great. Love working with those. Really look forward to getting those out. They're not going to give me any dramas. So heading over here, I'm going to have to get the exhaust pipe out. From, I'm guessing, here back. That's going to be fun. Why, Holden? Why? Why? Anyway, what happens? Hard braking. The front of the nose of the car dips down, and then that center bearing hits that plate and makes a god-awful noise. So I want to fix that because I don't like that noise. Originally I thought it was brakes, so I checked all the brakes and there was nothing wrong with them. That's when I crawled under here and found this loosey-goosey thing. Look at that. See the slop and dick in a shirt sleeve. And you can see from this angle that it's actually riding on that plate now. It should be up there, not down there. Fun and games. I've been working hard. I've got the exhaust out. All the bolts are loosened. Get them out, get the shaft out. Happy days. Well, it's out. I've got the exhaust inside as well, as it's about to bucket down the next 3 days at least, so I'll get that out of the rain while we work on the tail shaft. And here is the culprit. That is not attached anymore. And as you can see, that this is the Adventra. It does come with that plate. Donut is off. It actually looks pretty good, but while it's off and while I got a new one, I'll replace that. Get that out of the way. So what I believe is if you knock that back that way, that should come out of there. Mark it first so you can line it back up, and Bob's your uncle. However, a lot of the videos that I've watched are for sedans, and they seem to have a U-joint in the middle here, not a two-piece like what's on the VK and the Statesman. So that'll be interesting. I'll work out how to get that plate off, and then we'll work out how to get this separated and the rest of that bearing off. See you tomorrow. It's clamped in the vise and ready to start belting. I've done my line to line up, and we're going to start hitting on this end to separate from here. Now the hammer I will start using is this one, as it shouldn't do any damage to the tail shaft. I don't know whether it'll have enough oomph, because I'm going to start hitting on here and I'll see how it goes. Well, I'm not going to lie to you. I've been banging away at this for an hour and it will not budge one bit. I've got no idea how to split this thing, because I've been whacking and whacking and whacking this thing with everything I got, and it will not move. All I think I've done is that little gap in there, but I can't get any more than that. That's all I got in me. It will not move. All those videos on YouTube, eh? Probably banging away for 3 hours before it started to budge. Well, that's what this one's doing anyway. What I'm thinking the problem is, all these YouTube videos has a U-joint in the middle there, right? Well, this one doesn't. And every time I bang on this, you watch this, this is like a rubber joint in here. And it's just moving that bit in there. So all my hitting power is just getting absorbed by the rubber. And that's probably why I can't get the damn thing off. That is me damn issue. I have some success. After much thinking and procrastinating, I pulled the unused half from the VK/Statesman build, and I was able to get the end off. Now this is a similar configuration to what the Adventra is. So what you have to do is get this off. There's a circlip in front of that, which is that dirty bugger there. Once you got the circlip off, give that a tap on the backside, that'll come off. That's how you split the shaft, and that's how you would place the center bearing. So what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to undo those 6 bolts there and separate the two that way, then remove that CV joint and get the bearing off that way, and then replace it. That's how it has to be done. That's the difference between VYVZ sedan and Adventra. There's a CV joint in the middle instead of a uni joint. That's how you replace the bearing. Now that I believe I know what I'm doing, I'm going to undo these bolts and separate the two halves. Now, unlike earlier models where these were Allen keys, these are Torx. Now, I'm lucky enough to have this in my toolbox, which is the correct size for that. Now, this is the same that connects the tail shaft to the rear diff, and that's what was in the rear diff, so center ones are the same. So I'll crack these loose and we'll split the two halves and then look at trying to get that center bearing off. Now that that's unscrewed, the two halves still stay together, so a couple of little love taps with the hammer on this end and it split apart. And the difference between the newer ones and older ones, that's actually dry, and this end has a cap on. I'm gonna have to remove this cap because that's where the circlip is, so then we can get this off of this to get the bearing off. So let's try that. Ooh, there we go. Cap is off. Put that with the other one, or other half. Now in here should be a circlip. So the circlip is there. Just take you in and show you that. So you can see the circlip there. We'll get that out and then we'll start tapping off the CV joint. Now I did get myself some circuit pliers because I did not have any. Very slippery. Can't bend over anymore in my old age. So we'll go this way. That's almost off. Voila. Circlip off. Keep that somewhere safe so it doesn't get lost. And how are we going to tap this off? Need to get that steel band off here. Got to get that band off so the boot will come off with it. So I'll get that off and then tap from this side to get it off the spline. Okay, that's that off. Now, to tap this off. There we go. CV joint off. Happy days. Okie dokie. Next job is to get this washer off so we can get that bearing off. That's the washer off. Okay, all that's off now. Doesn't look like it's got a circlip or anything in there. Maybe strip some of that rubber off so I can see the bearing, and I'll see if I can bang it off. There we go. There you have it. That came off. I thought that was going to be a lot harder than what it was. So that came off pretty good. So since knowing what to do to get it apart to this stage has probably taken me about 35 minutes. And I was banging away at this thing last night for over an hour trying to separate it. It's amazing how quickly things come apart when you know what you're doing, eh? We'll get this ready to put back together and I'll see you then. That's all cleaned up. But before I get too excited and put that new bearing on, get this old one off first. Sayonara. You always want to protect your shaft too. You don't want any damage on that, then you'll be out of balance. Why don't we line up where our yellow line is so we know how to go back together. Probably a clever option. Okie dokes. Yellow line, clean shaft. Let's put the bearing on. Now I don't know how hard it's going to be to press this bearing on. So in the offcuts pile at work, I took this out. I don't know if it's going to be strong enough, but this is silicon mica tube. That's for high heat temperatures. Hopefully it doesn't break apart as I'm trying to send that home. Because I don't have a socket with or that long or a hole that big on the end to drive that on. New bearing, you want to put it on the same way as the old one come off. So this lip wants to go in this section here. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully it'll go on as easy as it came off. And where's my orange hammer? Here it is. I want to make sure it's straight first, which it's not. So we'll get that dead set level. And then put that on. See, that's a pretty good fit, but I want to double check that before I ruin the rubber. How's that for a guess, hey? That's pretty much probably a tiny bit oversized. I think maybe I'll take a bit off it so it's not so big. I don't want to damage that rubber. Righto, I've just taken a snippet off the OD there and hopefully it's a good fit. Looks pretty straight. I wish I had a smaller bit of timber to use on the back side of this, but I don't. I've just got a big block. So that's going to have to do. And then we'll tap it. Voila! Doesn't get much better than that, does it? Mag-friggin-nificent. That worked a treat. I'll give that a good clean before I put it back together, get that silicon mica dust off. Oh, anyone interested? Not harmful silicon. There you go. What a tool. Now it's time to start putting it back together. What I've done is just took a little bit of grease out of the cap from there and just put it around that shaft so the rubber will slide over nicely. And let's line those lines up and get it on. Now obviously I don't know how easy this is going to go over the splines, but we'll see how we go. That's my yellow line. Get that over there. Well, that didn't work. Got to hold that end. can't see, you need to line up the splines. Lining up, I don't know. Might have to be tapped on, I reckon. Lines look lined up. Let's get our bit of timber and see what happens. There we go. So start. Something's happening. A smaller bit of timber I can use for this one maybe. No, that doesn't want to go. That don't seem happy. Why are you not happy? Because it's not lined up, that's why. Yeah, no, I don't reckon it's that one. It might be that one. Maybe not. There might be one spline out. Get that off. What? I'm going to grease those splines so it's got a bit of lube on it. You know what? Good thing I didn't get that on, so I haven't got this washer on. Let's get that on there. That has to go in there. Put back our silicon mica tube. Tap that on. Alright, that's that on. See, it was telling me, don't put it on yet. Don't put it on yet. You're not ready for it. Round 2. Circlip on. Now, I don't want to be mixing greases and stuff in here, so I'm going to get the grease that's left over in that cap and pack it back in here, put it back together. Because I don't know if this is bearing grease or what kind of grease it is. I don't want to mess it up. So that's the plan, and that's what I'm running with. Now that's on. It's time to put the two halves back together. Ready to go. Got my yellow marks lined up the top. We'll line up with this yellow mark. Got the red Loctite out. Let's put the two pieces back together. Loctite applied. There you have it. One new centre bearing on a tail shaft. The only thing left to do is put that plate on. Now that that's back together, there's only one thing left to do, and that's put it back in the car. But that ain't happening now because it's wet and it's dark. That'll be tomorrow. See you then. Any of you keen-eyed observers would have noticed that I forgot to put the steel cable tie on that rubber lying in bed this morning, and I thought, oh jeepers, forgot that. So that's the first thing done. Now it's time to put it back in the car. I've got the new donut here. These are pretty simple to put on. Once the old one's off, it's just slide it over the slots and bolt it in. I'll get under the car and quickly show you that. So here's our input shaft off the transmission. We get our new donut, line up 3 of those holes, and it should go on, which it doesn't. Rotate to the other holes. Why won't you go on, you son of a beach ball? Alright, I'll get back to you soon. As it's new, it just needs a bit of pressure applied to put it on, other than having one hand on the camera, one hand trying to put it on. So it's kind of a two-hand job for a new donut. And then the 3 remaining ones are for the tail shaft. We'll get the center in, we'll get the back on, bolt him up. Progress. 3 bolts for this end of the tail shaft are in. Move along to the center bearing. Both those bolts are in. All hand tight. These do not have the nuts and washers on the back, they've just got the bolts through to hold it. And if we look at the other end, I've got the top 2 started just to line the holes up. Now I'm going to go get the Loctite, put it on those bolts, and then take those ones out while the other ones are in, so I can get the thread locker on it, and then we'll do them all up. All bolts to the diff are now in and hand tight. I'm just going to nip them up so I can spin them around while it's in neutral, and then we'll put the front bolts in and tighten them all up properly. Now, if you didn't know, Commodore tail shafts have numbers. This one is an SE. So if you're going to get a tail shaft, you need to get the correct one for your vehicle. Utes, wagons, sedans, they're all different part numbers. So get the one that applies to you. Let's tighten these bolts. Okay, I'm all buttoned up down here. Front end tight. Center bearing tight. And diff end tight. Now while I'm under here, exhaust rubbers. This was a hard one to get off because it's so close to the tail shaft, so I think I might put that rubber on first. And speaking of rubbers, these are the exhaust rubbers, and as there is 6 of them, they are all in pretty good condition, so I'm going to reuse them. So no dramas there. Gaskets. Luckily, I have a spare one from the VK, which is exactly the same size. Then I've got the 2 originals, which are pretty cactus on one edge. So I'm going to pick the best of a bad bunch, and that'll be one side, and hope it doesn't leak. If it does, we'll stick some exhaust goo in there to seal him up. Now for the fun thing, to get that huge exhaust pipe in. All exhaust hangers are on, including that one that's really close to the tail shaft. Now that was an effort. All that's left to do now is put the little clips on so the rubbers don't fall off. So what they are is just little clips like that. You push them over and they slot into that groove on that black one that you see there. So I've got to put those on, tighten up the exhaust mount bolts to the front half. Job done. Take test drive, make sure there's no noise. Laughing. And there's the new center bearing in there. Now you can see that it's not touching that plate anymore. It's where it's meant to be. So it looks so far like a success. Catch you up in a second when it's ready for the test drive. Ready for the test drive. Good news is the car backed out of the driveway, so that's good. And it's just started to rain again, so that was good timing. So the plan is we'll go around the block, make sure everything's right, no noises, and then we'll get up a bit of speed and hit the brakes a bit hard and see if we got that noise no more. Let's go, eh? There's nowhere to get any speed up. Though we'll hit the brakes and see what happens. Well, it doesn't make that noise anymore. That would have made a horrible noise. On heavy braking, that used to do. Get out on the highway and see how it goes. Feels good at 60, really good at 60. It's getting better and better as it warms up. Tail shaft hasn't dropped out, that's always a good thing. It's all Loctited in anyway, so I don't expect it to fall out anyway. So I'm almost out to the highway here. We'll get up to 80, see how that goes. And we'll call it good for, if it passes that test, we'll call it good for the learner to start driving the family truckster again. Here we go, here goes nothing. Ready for the power. Alright, we're at 80. Feels good. Feels real good. There's no clanging or banging or anything like that, so that's good. Do one more hard stop, see what happens. Nothing. Oh, how good is that? How good is that? Sensational. Very quiet with the radio off too. Alright, I'm going to get home and I'll catch you up there. Home again, jiggity jog. Basically, what you need to do if you want to do your own center bearing is not just pick any random video on YouTube, because as I found out, all the tail shafts are different. So you need to find the specific one for your car. Now, 99.9% of them out there are for sedans. I don't have a sedan and I don't have a Commodore. So this is a all-wheel drive Adventra with a specific tail shaft. So if you've got one of those and you want to know how to change your center bearing, well, if you've got to this point, you've already watched this video. And I'd like to say, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.